Welcome to a football show, joint practice edition here on a Thursday.
Fiery joint practice edition.
We cannot guarantee that we will not come to blows at the end of the show today, much like the Titans and Bucs did.
Well, we can because we're not physically in person.
I guess that's true. What about verbal sparring? Can we have some
verbal blows will happen. There will be verbal jabs and verbal uppercuts. Maybe I'll get in a cheap shot here or there, but that will happen.
I love a good F words cheap shot. There's no question about that. So jump into the comment section if you have any questions about Titans and Bucs. We're going to preview the game coming up, of course, on Saturday. After watching 2 days of joint practices, Malik Willis, Caleb Farley overreaction. We'll take a look at the pass rush, the pass catchers, how they performed. And then, of course, yes, there was a fight at the end of Titans and Bucs practice. So we'll get into that. Some huge news in the SEC with both a quarterback in the SEC West, but also, more importantly, what does the future of TV broadcasting rights look like? And Zach is just wrong about something. So we're going to talk about that later on.
Absolutely not.
Like, factually incorrect. So he can throw all the uppercuts he wants, but he's just dead wrong about this. And so we'll discuss later. We'll discuss. We'll discuss. So a lot of good stuff today coming up on the show. I don't think I missed anything. Turn on all the notifications. Broadway Sports Media, F Words on Twitter, YouTube page, at 440 Sports, at Braden Gall. I think I got it all. Congrats on the new sponsor, by the way. Let's not step on these sponsors, but F Words Pod, sponsored by Jaspers. So free shout out to Jaspers there. This show, however, is brought to you by Weiss Liquors, our great friends over there on Main Street in East Nashville. Uber Eats, search Weiss Liquors, put in whatever you want. Just click a few buttons there. You pay for it, and the booze comes right to your door, Zach. I'm not sure what else people need in 2022 than booze coming right to their door, folks.
We continue to get lazier as a society, and I am totally embracing it.
I do appreciate how self-aware you are, Zach.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite traits about you. So go check out Weiss Liquors. Again, if you pop in and you want to buy something, just say 440. You'll get 10% off. So tax-free booze as well. Again, family-owned and operated for almost 100 years in Nashville. Locally owned business. Support locally owned businesses. Speaking of other locally owned businesses, the Kingston Group, also a title sponsor of a football show. Check them out. BuildKG.com. Do not make any big decisions about your house until you talk to them. They are wonderful and amazing people. A nose-to-tail organization, Zach. Nose to tail.
Nose to tail.
That's right.
I like it.
That's right. I guess you
the whole hog.
Front porch to back porch.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't
know if we need to get on there. The whole hog. It's the whole hog of building.
I'm on medication right now. No, so I'm a little wonky. It's gonna be loose. It's gonna be fun today on the show. So if you want to chime in, jump in the comment section, and we'll get there. We do, unfortunately, not unfortunately, maybe unfortunately, you're kind of pissed off about this. I think it was a no-brainer, had to happen. But we'll start real quickly with the breaking news with Deshaun Watson being suspended 11 games. They come to an agreement, the PA and the NFL, a $5 million fine, which is way more than what was going to be in his salary if he was suspended for 11 games. So here's the deal from my perspective. Like, everyone sort of made their decisions about this, Zach. Everyone has their opinions. I don't think he should be playing in the league. I'm not drafting him in my keeper league. Like, whatever, that's my choice. I don't really care what everyone else thinks about his. But from Watson's perspective, no criminal charges. All the NDAs for the civil suits have been signed. You take your 11-game suspension and your $5 million fine, and you're going to be out playing in like 12 weeks. It was a no-brainer if I'm Watson, honestly, even if that is very cynical.
I think Deshaun Watson is a trash human being. I think the Browns ownership is a trash organization ran by trash human beings. I think that when you look at the fact that fans and even some players are taking this, it's us versus them mentality, us versus the world, they're all fucking losers too, especially Joe Bitonio, who has made the most tone-deaf tweet or statement ever, so he can go get fucked. And then on top of that, you have his agent coming out and saying that, oh, well, the judge already made up her mind. You know, we really don't believe that she came up with her own opinion and blah, 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 before we even had a chance to talk to her. Like, bro, I mean, I don't get why people are defending someone that has upwards of 30 allegations made against them. Why are they all falling over ass backwards to basically say that he's innocent? It's just fucking moronic. I'm fucking pissed. I think the NFL did a disservice to basically everybody involved by not going tougher punishment. And I think that when It's not, to me, it's not really a matter of if anymore. When this happens again with Deshaun Watson, because when you have this kind of basically mentality and lack of remorsefulness and this history, he's a serial sexual assaulter, it's going to happen again. So then what's everybody going to say then that's involved in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sends a pretty awful message to your female fans. There's no question about that. But again, I think everyone's kind of made up their minds on this, and no matter what the number was going to be, Zach, I think people would have been pissed. Like if it was 7 or 8, people were going to be pissed. If it was a whole season, people are going to be pissed. Like I just think, where is the right number of games?
The people that were going
like,
to be pissed if it's a whole season, or the people they're trash. I don't care about their opinion.
No, I mean that it's not enough. Like
gotcha.
Like I just think that you.
Well, there would have been people mad at the other way too.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, and I think again, you get to decide whatever you want to decide as a fan in this society. Like if you're fine with Tyreek Hill being on your team, even though he punched his pregnant girlfriend, like that's your prerogative. You get to decide this as a sports fan. That's your choice. And if you don't give a shit about what people do outside of their task that you cheer for, that's up to you. Just like it's up to us to have our own opinions about this. And frankly, I don't even think anyone cares what anyone else's opinion is at this point. Like I think everyone has the freedom to make up their own decision. And again, I don't know what I don't even feel good saying like a year or a year and a half because I don't know.
I think he should be out of the league, but that's,
right. Like, that
was probably very unrealistic without criminal charges.
Right.
And it's so hard to get criminal charges brought against you in the state of Texas because it's a fucked up state.
Here's what I would say. If any single human being outside of, the lead singer of Led Zeppelin or, like, I don't know, Kanye or Deshaun Watson, outside of like the top 1% of 1% of human beings, if you showed up at your boss's office with 24 allegations of alleged sexual misconduct with no proof of anything at all, you will be fired.
No doubt.
99% of human beings would be fired with this. So I think that's some perspective that we could all kind of keep in mind when we do this.
Let's talk. You want to switch to people that lack perspective on stuff?
So explain to me why you're so worked up about Caleb Farley and the overreaction to his struggles. Now, I talked to him after practice on Thursday, and he was very hard on himself. He was like, man, it was a terrible practice. I didn't play well. He came out and had a much better day on Thursday. So what were you upset about, Zach? What do you?
Well, there's people out there that want him traded. There's people out there already declaring that his career is pretty much over. It's written in stone. This guy's not going to be good. See, you talk about the Twitter sewers, but there's a reason why I get the pulse of the people.
That's true.
And it doesn't matter if the people are dirty, deranged idiots. They're still the people. And this is what people are talking about. People are talking about that Roger McCreary is the assumed number one cornerback opposite Christian Fulton. They're just saying that it's cemented already based on that Roger McCreary went out in a certain package and was the outside wide receiver. They got kicked inside when another package presented itself. So they're saying 100% Roger McCreary is it. There's other people that are saying that that at the trade deadline, Caleb Farley's out of here. It's wild that the people are already saying that basically his career is written in stone.
Do you feel like when you get into these situations that you find that maybe it's not as healthy to be bathing in the sewers with the pulse of the fans? Like, do you ever feel like maybe you shouldn't do it? Or
yeah, but then what are we going to talk about? Like, I mean, I got my whole shtick is built around basically telling people how big of idiots they are. And if I don't have that, what do I have?
You have a lot of self.
I have a wife and a puppy. Like, oh, whoa!
Did you just yada your wife?
Yada.
You just yada your wife. You can't do that. I'll say this: you have a lot of 2 times on the show now. You have a whole lot of self-awareness, my man, and I appreciate that. That's my favorite part of Zach Lyons is his self-awareness, and of course, get to him on Twitter to tell him how much of an idiot he is. But
it's what people are talking about, right? They're talking about Caleb Farley's one bad day. In fact, people are already changing the words that Mike Vrabel used to describe the one bad day, and they're not giving him. It's like when Burks went down for injury. Oh my God, when Burks went down and got with that minor injury and got sent to the back, you would have thought that.
You mean on Wednesday?
Yeah, on Wednesday. When that happened, you would have thought that people were bringing up the A.J. Brown trade all over again and saying how we shouldn't be doing this. And they were bringing up the fat stuff and the asthma stuff. And it was just, I get it. Fans is short for fanatic, but at some point, you have to use your fucking head. At some point, you have to use some logic.
He had a great Thursday practice, like a great interception and 2-minute drill. High pointed it in the end zone, took it away. He had a really good Thursday practice, and he was hard on himself about his Wednesday practice. It wasn't a great practice, but otherwise his Monday practice was great in team drills against the Titans. Like, he's had 2 really good practices this week.
And he's got good practices throughout training camp.
So
it's
what?
not like it's been bad it's one bad thing.
I don't get the conversation that even discusses. Now, here's what I would say that I think is important for Titans fans to keep in mind, I don't care who is labeled the starter. I don't care. I don't think it matters. I don't think it's important. I don't think it's a thing that is something we should discuss. If Roger McCreary happens to start week 1, it's not a story to me who happens to be the starter, because you're going to see 3 defensive backs or corners on the field a lot. You're probably going to see 4 defensive backs, corners on the field a lot, with Molden, Fulton, Farley, and McCreary all together. You need that. We've talked ad nauseum about this. You need this many guys in the modern NFL. You need to be versatile. You need to move them around, and they have a lot of them, and they're all going to play. So it doesn't matter who's a starter. It's about the matchup. That's what it's about.
I think I'm with you on all that, and I think what's happened is that people tie the draft position too much to what the player and what the team needs. Right? The team drafted Roger McCreary because you go over to where, let's take the AFC West for example. The Broncos had 3 good wide receivers at the time. The Raiders have 3 good wide receivers. The Chargers have 3 good wide receivers, and their wide receivers are drastically different types of wide receivers, right? Mike Williams is your deep threat. Keenan Allen is your route specialist, and Josh Palmer's just kind of your all-around guy for that team. And don't forget, they also have Guyton. Then you look at, the other teams in the AFC. I mean, Jameson Crowder replaces Cole Beasley over at the Buffalo Bills, and they have Gabriel Davis, who's having a hell of a year, and they drafted Khalil Shakur, and let's not forget Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox. You have to have all these corners, and that's why they drafted all of these guys. I'm exactly with you. I wouldn't be surprised if against the Giants, where you have 2 smaller guys in Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson, that maybe Roger McCreary gets the start outside, because that matchup may dictate that, because he may be able to keep up with those guys better than he could keep up with Kenny Golladay, who Christian Fulton will probably be on Kenny Golladay at that point, because Christian Fulton is cemented as the number 1 cornerback of this team. But it's just like, I wouldn't be surprised when NWI got the start over Treylon Burks, because in 12 personnel, they're probably going to put out those guys. It's all about, this team is built around matchups and personnel and being multiple. And that extends to the offense, it extends to the defense. That's all they need. And it really doesn't matter if you got 50% snaps out of Caleb Farley game 1 and 50% snaps out of Roger McCreary game 1, and they split all those snaps on defense, and the Titans win 21-7, successful day. Who cares?
So, and Donovan chimes in and says, do people not remember that Farley hasn't played multiple consecutive games since 2019? It takes time for a cornerback to get their mojo back. I would also argue, to your point about draft stock, because I think you're right, where you get drafted sort of like sticks in people's heads. I'd like to point out that Roger McCreary was drafted 13 spots behind Caleb Farley. Like, they weren't drafted all that differently. Like, Roger McCreary's pedigree is not all that different than the 22nd overall pick. He was drafted 35th. Like, it was the 3rd pick of the 2nd round.
When you get down, when you get down to that bottom, when you get outside really of the top 20, you are talking about basically 2nd round picks, and your top of your 2nd round, the bottom of the 1st round are all interchangeable quality players that are all supposed to be starting at some point. And let's not forget, we even saw it in the Ravens game. This still is a guy that doesn't fully trust his ankle yet, or his ACL, knee. So we saw that Taylor Lewan struggled with the same thing. Bud Dupree got off to a slow start. Why is Caleb Farley sometimes not getting that benefit of the doubt? I just think that people are not remembering. They're filling their head with all this hot take bullshit that doesn't fucking matter. And I think they're not remembering the pertinent information.
The second most valuable draft asset that the Tennessee Titans had this year was used on a corner.
They saw
That's
what
it.
they
That's it.
see. People act like that because they don't load up on offense. Technically, they think that they don't understand that. Well, I mean, the Titans did nothing. They got Robert Woods and they traded away AJ Brown while Russell Wilson is, over in the West, and then these guys got these guys and these guys got those guys and this. They got Roger McCreary for all those reasons that you're talking about.
Yep. There you go. All right. Lead the way, Zach. Where would you like to go here? We watched a lot of practice the last 2 days, had a lot of fun. I love one-on-ones and good on good. I love it. It's been a lot of fun. Weather was great. So where do you want to take us here, Zach?
I think we got to talk, and talk with honesty about Malik Willis's practice struggles and his struggles. He's continuously struggling with hesitation, and he knows it. He sees the tape. He's having that difficulty taking what he sees in the room and knowing what he's got to do and putting it on the practice field. And even Ryan Tannehill is trying to help him with it. And I think PK asked, did you struggle with hesitation? And Ryan Tannehill threw a lot of interceptions, and you tend to throw a lot of interceptions when you don't have any hesitation. You're just out there slinging it.
Yeah.
As a rookie, when he was a rookie. So he can help Malik with this, and I think that they're giving him all these reps, according to Mike Vrabel, to get him comfortable running their offense and get him comfortable in the offense that is totally new, so he can not be hesitant. But you brought up something in a text, and you kind of just like you tossed it in there. It's kind of like a little bit of a tease, so I'm not really sure where you're going with it. But you wanted to talk about the struggles are a little bit more apparent when you watch Kyle Trask. So you're comparing Malik Willis and Kyle Trask's ability to move the ball.
Well, so what happened on the first practice on Wednesday? They got into 2-minute drills, and Malik Willis has been running largely with the second team for a better part of 2 weeks, heading into the game last week against Baltimore. And then on Wednesday, Woodside got more reps on Thursday. But what was interesting is Malik Willis ran the 2-minute drill for the Titans. The first 5 dropbacks probably were all sacks because he held the ball too long. Literally 5 straight plays. I was like, he hasn't learned anything from Thursday the previous week. Now, again, it's tough. It's the first live reps you're getting against another team, like all this other stuff. But you got to do it. You need the reps. There was one really good throw, but I think that would have been a sack. Then he had like one great throw afterward. The key with Kyle Trask is that he came in the very next series. So we were looking at 2 young players, a first-year player in Willis and a second-year player in Trask. Trask came right in, and while he's not better than Willis, he's not more talented than Willis. His arm is probably less than. He made decisions, and you could see the difference. It was like just blatantly obvious. Trask would take 2 steps, the ball was out. He went 1, 2, 3, read, boom, 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 ball was out. And you could just see the difference between a guy who has played his entire career in the pocket, Kyle Trask, and a guy who's played his entire career running around, Malik Willis. So it was just one of those where it like kind of crystallized it for me, where I was watching Willis going, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it, and he wouldn't. And then Trask came in and, again, wasn't good, but was throwing the football exactly when he was supposed to, on rhythm, 2 steps throw, 2 steps throw, 2 steps throw.
Which is exactly what the Titans are wanting out of Malik Willis, right?
Yes.
They're probably a little envious. They're like, come on, Malik, do that. Throw that ball, even if it sucks. Just throw the ball. Get comfortable. Get comfortable making tight window throws and not having everything be perfect. Because when you have a young quarterback that wants to go out there, needs everything or wants everything to be perfect and be an easy throw, that's when you're going to see, I feel like, if you're not going to have mistakes to make and you're too worried about making mistakes, you're just as bad as someone like that's making all kinds of mistakes.
Yeah. So Donnie asked, is it really that obvious that Woodside is getting fewer reps? It's not necessarily fewer. It's that over the last 2 weeks, they switched. Woodside started in camp as the number 2, was taking every second rep. Willis was taking every third rep. By the start of last week's practice going into the Baltimore game, he was getting every second team rep. And then this week, it was the same until Thursday when they kind of switched and Woodside got a few more reps. I think so. On Madden, when you're chasing the guy down and it's just 2 players running up the field, right? And you got like a 10-yard head start on somebody. So this is all a Woodside Willis analogy here baked into a video game thing. So Woodside is 10 yards ahead of Willis, and they're running down the field. That was the start of camp. I thought that over the last 2 weeks and during the game last week that Willis cut that to 6 yards, let's say. I think in the last 3 or 4 days, he's back out to like 8 yards. But I think Willis it's going to be like this. It's like a stock market. It's going to be, I'm going to gain ground on Woodside, and I'm going to step back. And then I'm going to gain ground, and then I'm going to step back. And even Vrabel said it today on Thursday. He said, we are trying to get him to catch up to Logan Woodside as quickly as possible.
Which lets you know who quarterback 2 is, by the way, is Logan Woodside.
Currently.
They're hoping. They're hoping for Malik Willis. That's what you guys got to understand. This team is all about earning your spot, and Malik Willis has yet to earn his spot as number 2 quarterback behind Ryan Tannehill. But they're desperately wanting Malik Willis to pan out, and I think there is a possibility that he will. There's a lot of people, I've heard a few people in the media say that they just don't think he's going to be anything more than a backup. I still see enough that they can build with the determination that he has to be great. I think that is so important. If he had the mindset, if he had Baker Mayfield's personality and the struggles he's currently facing right now, I'd say this guy's a bust. He's not going anywhere. He'll be lucky to be a backup. But he has the personality and the determination to keep on improving and working at his craft. And I think that is a key element of Malik Willis. Now, every time we talk about Malik Willis, I'm always going to talk about his personality, leadership, and demeanor, because to me, that's what has stood out the most about him. And what about that pass to Chig today?
Yeah, and we'll get that. It was the only difference between Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning was their attitude. That's it.
Right.
That's the only difference. Like, they had the exact same size and skill set. One guy showed up in cargo shorts and didn't know where he was, and one guy showed up with like a 300-page dossier on how to win in the NFL. And that's it. Like, that was the difference. It's all up here. It's all mental. And Willis has all of that in spades. His upside, honestly, like, I'm still in the, I don't know if he's a starting quarterback camp yet, but the talent you see when the lights come on, it's there. It's very much Russell Wilson from a skill set standpoint. So if he does get it all figured out and he can throw the ball. Now, Russell Wilson was a brilliant in the pocket thrower in college at NC State and Wisconsin. So that's different. But like, skill set wise, a little shorter, beefier, can run around. There's a lot of Russell Wilson to his game. So if he's good, there's a lot of upside. So the throw today, I thought, was maybe the best throw I've seen the entire time he's been a professional football player. They were in the 2-minute drill.
That includes the preseason game.
That includes the preseason game. Maybe this might be a better throw than the sidearm thing where he dodged a defender and flicked it out into the flats, which I still think is one of my favorite plays he's made as a Titan, practice or preseason game. So they're in the red zone drill. They're on about the 12-yard line. He drops back. Chig is, I can't tell you exactly where he is. He's on the right side of the formation, and he runs sort of one of those like bend seam routes where you kind of fake like you're going out, and then you bend it in towards the seam of the goal line, right towards the goalpost, right? And Willis takes 2 steps, plants his back foot, and fires a rope right between the safety and the corner. And it's one of those where you see the 2 guys sort of like cross pass right after the football. It goes right into where it needs to land, hits Chig right in the hands. Okonkwo catches it 3 feet, 4 feet down, easy touchdown. One of the best throws I've seen him make ever as a Titan. So if you want to overreact positively, there's your play you can overreact to.
I like it. But I don't know if I'm going to be overreacting on the next topic, but I feel the pass rush is having some domination going on, and it's getting me really excited. They got a lot of passion, a lot of pride right now.
How excited are we, Zach? On a scale?
I am like a scale from 1 to 10, crank it up to 11. Spinal tap that motherfucker.
Fully aroused, not like a quarter aroused or a half aroused, like fully aroused.
Yeah. Oh, it's
standing
up there.
Full mast. Okay.
Yeah, full mast. I mean, it is awesome to hear, awesome to watch. I know that the Bucs offensive line is continually getting banged up because apparently Tristan Wirfs went out today with an injury as well. So there's another. Basically, when Brady comes back, he's going to have an entirely new offensive line to play behind. But that's what you want to see. You want to see your ones and your best players continually dominate and get in the backfield, regardless of who's lined up in front of them. And that's what they're doing. And I think that's a great sign. And I think that should let fans be excited about this.
And I think there's more depth, too. I think David Anini, who you've talked about, Anini and Adini, both of those guys have played well the last 2 days. Ola Adini and David Anini not to get those two guys confused. But they both had excellent practices the last 2 days. They were all over the field. So there's not only just the starting lineup, but the depth pieces are really nice. I will say, to your point, I think a lot of what I saw in the first 2 days of practice was what I expected. Tampa has lost both starting guards in its center, and Jeffrey Simmons is a dominant force. I kind of expected to
he's even beating up on coaches, apparently.
Yeah, yes. I kind of expected to see what I saw over the 2 days. So it's not like, I think what it did is confirm to me that Tampa's offensive line is in much worse shape than people think it is, and that's going to cost Tom Brady a lot this year. And I think the Titans pass rush is much better, is as good as we think it could be. So I didn't learn a whole lot about the defense, honestly. Like, in 2 days, I was focused heavily on the offense. So,
I wanted to touch base, and we'll go back real quick about the Caleb Farley thing, was that Roger McCreary got put on his belly by Jalen Darden, just like Jalen Darden kind of put Caleb Farley on skates. It's important to note that the people who cover Tampa Bay regularly, Jalen Darden has been doing that to everybody.
Yeah.
So this is not something new that Jalen Darden does. It doesn't mean anything other than he's got a quick twitch, and these guys are having a little bit harder time when there's nobody else on the field keeping up with them, which is okay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive backs are going through the same issue that these guys are.
Which leads us right to Kyle Phillips, because Kyle Phillips put some dudes on skates and continues to show up all over the place. 2-minute drill, red zone, one-on-ones, 7-on-7, you name it. Austin Hooper had a great couple of days of practice as well. Chig had a really good couple of days. Burks had a great couple of pass catches before he walked literally like 3 feet in front of me, shaking his left leg. I don't know if that's an injury or not, or if that was just like he had something in his pants, but like he walked 3 feet from me with the trainer. He had two really big touchdown pass receptions, but 18 is showing up. 18 and 81, the inverse numbers there. They showed up every single drill on Wednesday and almost every single drill on Thursday. The new pass catchers for the Titans, I think people should be very, very excited about the collection. Robert Woods counts in this as well. Made a couple of really nice plays. They didn't use him a ton against Tampa in the team drills, but when he did get used, he made a couple of big catches over the middle in particular.
NWI's out there mossing people. I know he's not technically a new pass catcher, but he's out there putting on a good show too.
Does Racy count as a new pass catcher?
I think so. I think it's a totally different wide receiver than what you saw last year, and
he didn't catch a lot of passes last year.
No, I mean, I think he dropped a couple.
Yeah, so he was throwing. There was a deep pass from Tannehill to Racy. So when Burks went out, Racy came in. So Racy was immediately running with the first team, and they threw a deep bomb down the sideline, and he had like a starting defensive back. I think it might have been Carlton Davis, like all over him. He went up and made a really great contested, like 50-yard catch down the field. He dropped a couple on Thursday. But I think Racy is the reason Josh Malone was cut. I think Racy McMath has cemented himself. We talked about it on Monday. If you're including Racy and Austin Hooper and Chigakonkwo and Kyle Phillips and Treylon Burks, there's a lot of new stuff to be excited about for the Titans offense. So they were very good over the 2 days. And Austin Hooper is like the professional's professional. Like he's great out there.
Yeah, I think that there's a level of comfortability with Ryan Tannehill, too, throwing to all these guys. I mean, he's letting it rip. At the beginning of the year, after we drafted Kyle Phillips, at the Titans drafted Kyle Phillips, we talked about, stat lines and, what to expect from Kyle Phillips. And I said, minimum 5 receiving touchdowns. And some people kind of looked at me like I was a little crazy and told me that I was crazy. I think you were one of them. But when you get to the red zone, from what I hear, when you get down to the red zone, when the Titans get down there, Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis, Logan Woodside are all looking his way first if he's in the game or if he's in the play. And I think that's super important to talk about because that ultimately is going to give him a lot of red zone work. And that's what I said. I think he's going to be a red zone guy, where he will get at least 5 touchdowns based off the red zone. I don't think he's going to get take a house of 40-yarder or anything, but I think that when they get in the red zone, it's him and Austin Hooper, which also hurts Derrick Henry's rushing touchdown total.
The most Phillips is used is like between that like 3 to 10-yard curl route in between the hashes, and then quick out routes, whether it's 3 yards in the flat or 7 or 8 yards deep in the sideline. Excuse me, that is how Phillips has been used a lot. So I don't know if that translates to the goal line as much. But I think on 3rd and 3, like, you better know where 18 is. Like, he is a chain mover. There's no question. And Okonkwo is like to me, Chig Okonkwo is like the big version, the tight end version of Kyle Phillips right now, with more athleticism potentially. And he's the guy I would bank on getting those kind of routes, the curls and between the hashes and the flat routes. I think Chig could be the guy who gets that and around the goal line. But they're professionals. They're craftsmen of what they do. And Ryan Tannehill, you're exactly right. Ryan Tannehill is very comfortable with all of these guys. And a quick note on Tannehill, by the way, the gap, like, and Rexford and I were talking about this, like, the gap between Ryan Tannehill and the other two guys is substantial. I just want to put that out there as a noted Tannehill doubter. There is a significant gap in every walk of life between Ryan Tannehill and the other two guys on the roster playing quarterback.
Which is to be expected. I mean, like, that's exactly what you want, right? Wouldn't you be worried if it was like Logan Woodside, not much different than Ryan Tannehill?
No, but I think it's different than even from last year's camp. Like, I think it's just a little different. And Kevin says, no more need for Fuller, I guess. Just hope we consider signing a guard or something. I agree. They're done at pass catcher. I think you agree with me, though, correct me if I'm wrong, that offensive line, that was not a particularly great group this last 2 days. They were solid. Tannehill got a lot of pressure in the 2-minute and the red zone drills. So, like, Taylor Lewan got beat. Dylan Radins got abused sometimes. Nicholas Petit-Frere got pushed around and worked. Vita Vea tossed Ben Jones like a rag doll one time. Like, that's a good defensive front. And I agree with Kevin that I think –
I noticed, though, one guy you hadn't mentioned in all that was Aaron Brewer. And you talked about Aaron Brewer going up against this defensive line specifically because of the power and the size of the Tampa Bay defensive line. You didn't mention him. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a great question, actually, because I watched it a lot on Wednesday, and Vita Vea lined up in front of him on the very first rep, and I was like, oh, God, here we go. And they doubled him a lot. So it was a lot of Brewer and Jones doubling Vita Vea, and then again, even with the double team, excuse me, Vita just tossed Ben Jones with like one hand. So I don't know, actually. Like, I think he wasn't the worst one out there most reps, but they moved Vea around a lot. They didn't have him like head up on Brewer most of the time. They kind of moved him around and challenged a bunch of different guys. At one point I want to say it was Jordan Roos at right guard when Nate Davis went out. And then it was Roos and Radins, and they were just getting pushed around. And so, again, Tampa, very good defensive front, but that's what you have to face in the NFL. So
right.
I still think investment in the offensive line is the number one area that I would invest in. And
Do you get the sense that's what they think? Because I've heard these people keep saying that, well, they could just wait and pick some people off of cuts and these people that get cut and stuff. And I'm thinking, well, they're getting cut for a reason. I mean, when you're keeping 8 or 9 offensive linemen on these teams, I don't think that's the way to go. Do you think a lot of people think that their right tackle is on someone else's team currently? Do you think that?
No, I don't think so. I think that they might have a depth piece they want to acquire, kind of like safety. Like, they clearly thought safety was a concern. They went out and traded for somebody.
A conditional 2024 draft pick, 7th round draft pick.
So to me, like, the odds of them signing someone are pretty slim. It makes for good talking content on a show like this, but it does feel like if they're going to add somebody, it's going to be like the 7th or 8th or 9th lineman. It's not going to be the 5th or 6th lineman.
Yeah.
I do think that I have cemented what we talked about on Monday, which is that the 5 most talented offensive linemen includes Radins and Petit-Frere. So one of those two guys has to work. Like, they have to work out at right tackle. so if they don't have one of those two playing right tackle, that's a 2nd and a 3rd round pick.
Yeah,
like, not contributing. So
I agree. Any other takeaways from camp?
Just the fight was interesting. It was the very last thing that happened on the entire 2 days. Leonard Fournette decides to throw a punch at Jeffrey Simmons, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. Also, punching people with helmets on, even the ones that are padded. I don't understand why that's an instinct for people to do that. Kevin Byard was trying to break it up, but Simmons has just been pissing people off the entire time. And from Devin White, by the way, I love listening to Devin White chirp. He just talks the entire time. I've had a chance to talk with him over the years. The LSU people, extremely well respected in these 2 practices, right? Because you got Racey McMath, Christian Fulton, Leonard Fournette, Trenton Cannon, or no, Torrey Carter, excuse me. And then Devin White. Like there was like 7 or 8 LSU players out there, and they were all kind of going at it. So that was fun. Simmons just pisses people off, dude. Like
love it.
He just is in your kitchen all the time, just grinding and working and just beating you. And Tampa, I think, was pushed around a lot on the first day of practice. And they came into, I'll just say this. I overheard some conversations, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that Tampa Bay came into the second day of practice, wanting to stir some shit up.
Oh, interesting. I like it.
That was part of their objective. And then by the end of it, it happened.
I did notice that Trenton Cannon didn't make it out to practice, and I'm sure everybody's sorely disappointed over that.
Didn't make my notes here, Zach.
Gotcha.
Trenton Cannon didn't make my notes. Oh, quickly, Hassan Haskins.
Whew.
Hassan Haskins also is the reason that your boy Jordan Wilkins is off the team as well. Also, Wilkins not being good. But Haskins, this dude absolutely destroyed Logan Ryan.
So there's conflicting reports about this. I'm glad you brought that up because Ben Arthur puts out that he destroyed Logan Ryan. And then he kind of walks it back saying, well, some people are saying that Logan Ryan.
No, this is all Teresa Walker. This is all Teresa Walker. I blame you, Teresa Walker. No one's ever called you out for anything because you're the greatest sports reporter in the history of the state of Tennessee. But I will call you out on this because I said it to your face on the practice field. Because I tweeted that.
Well, that sounds really aggressive. Like I said it to her face.
I did. Oh, you know how like the meanest possible thing you can say to Teresa is like, "Come on, Teresa!" Like that's the worst thing you can say to her. So I tweeted that out, and she was like, "Oh, it looked like Logan delivered the blow," and I was like, "No, I was standing 5 feet away." Hassan Haskins takes an off tackle play, like an outside zone to the left side, really well blocked, extremely well blocked. So he's into the secondary at about the 5-yard line. He puts his head down. Logan Ryan's coming from his safety spot, flowing outside in, and instead of going to the sideline, which I think Logan Ryan expected Hassan Haskins to do, Hassan Haskins puts his foot in the ground and just blows through him. It's head-on-head contact, so it was scary as hell. It sounded like a car accident. And Logan Ryan, it's one of those where like the guys hit, and one guy goes flat on his back, and the other guy is still standing. Hassan Haskins was still standing, and Logan Ryan was laying on the ground. I don't know how there's any misconception about this. And then Haskins eventually gets tackled, like kind of falls down, like after like kind of stumbling over the top of the guy he just murdered. And Logan Ryan's helmet was all crooked. Like Haskins destroyed him. just destroyed him.
I love some Hassan Haskins. I was really down on the pick and when it initially happened. And I mean, because I understood it, but it's also you're drafting a running back, right? Like that's my big thing.
He can catch and he's physical, man.
He's so fun to watch. I love it when and he's got such good hands. Like he soft pass catching hands, like better hands than Des Fitzpatrick or some of these other guys. To be honest,
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Logan Ryan did not have a good day because Kyle Phillips twisted him around in one-on-one, and then Kyle Phillips abused him in one-on-one, and then Haskins truck sticked him in the red zone drill. So no, Haskins he's been a nice little spot, and again makes their decision very easy on the depth chart. Racey McMath and Haskins have made it very easy, I think, on them to make some of those decisions.
Dontrell Hilliard, people are talking about him all damn day today, giving him glowing notes and everything. And he's been doing well in training camp beforehand. I mean, he's been catching balls and scoring touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. But it's just nice, I guess when you go up against a different team that he's the guy that they're talking like, whoa, he's really popping off the page.
He is so well-rounded. Like he can do kind of anything they ask him to. They can split him out into motion. They can run between the tackles with him. Like he's just a really all-around good player. And Haskins is a little bit more of the between the tackles guy, but he also is a great pass catcher. So they've got a really good backfield, honestly, with Henry leading the way. So again, the skill position players around Tannehill are much better this year. And I don't think the rest of the country has acknowledged that yet. Yeah. Because AJ Brown is so good. So, all right, what are you looking for? Before we move on to the game, by the way, the preview of the Bucs and the Titans, real quickly here, make sure you check out Weiss Liquors, one of our title sponsors on the show. Uber Eats, Weiss Liquors, search, order your booze, have it delivered right to your house. I don't know what else you need from a liquor store than that. And if you go into the store, the old brick and mortar shop there, right there on Gallatin in East Nashville, 10% off if you mention 440 Sports. So just say the name when you go to the cashier checkout line there and get yourself 10% off. 1932, Zach. 1932. White's Liquors has been independently, locally owned in Nashville for almost 100 years, so go check them out. Bucs-Titans, Malik Willis starting again. What are you most looking forward to?
Mike Vrabel's playing these mind games, acting like they haven't already decided that Malik Willis is starting. But I mean, I think it's very safe to say that Malik Willis will start the game versus the Bucs, as he should, because they already know. And again, Vrabel said it today. They already know what Logan Woodside is. Like they know what he is. They know what he can do. They want to see more from Malik Willis. So obviously, you want to see Malik Willis not necessarily improve on what he did in practices. I want to see what he improved on from preseason game 1 to preseason game 2. Now, obviously, those things are probably the same thing. It's the hesitation, everything. But when you're in a game, it's a little bit different than being in practice. So I want to have tangible takeaways that let me know that Malik Willis was able to improve upon the film that he saw versus the Ravens. That would be my number one thing.
Yep. I think I saw some of it in the practice, but not much during the 2-minute drill where you have to be extra decisive. So I agree. I want to see what he looks like. That's the number one thing is decisiveness. Throw the football, stand in the pocket. He's talked about it in the last 2 days. Like they want me climbing the pocket and focused on throwing the football. And what value does that give him if he's doing it in the second half? Like I'm not sure if you can really teach him much other than maybe giving him some confidence. But this confidence thing to me is so overrated in big time football. Like
I don't know if it's confidence as much as is what I don't know that the Titans are seeking confidence from Malik Willis as far as worried about if he plays into the second, or the second half and he sucks, it's going to destroy his confidence. They're looking for competence.
Yeah,
that's what they are looking for, in my opinion.
No, I think that's right, and this kind of speaks to our conversation coming up about Miles Brennan and LSU, but I do think that if you go out and struggle in a preseason game or in college football, a regular game, and that is what ruins your confidence, you ain't QB1, dude. Like that's right. It. Like if one half of football in the preseason against the Bucs is what destroys your confidence, then you're not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like full stop. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're right. They want to see just actual execution.
right.
From the quarterback. What else? How long do you expect to see all the rookies? Burks got a lot of reps last week. What do you want to see from the rookies?
I don't know that you'll see Kyle Phillips out there a lot unless they're just wanting to run Malik Willis with all these guys for an extended period of time. Because he played 3 snaps last week. I guess it kind of depends on what they're looking for in preseason game 2 as far as some of these other guys. Like Treylon Burks, I expect him to play less snaps unless he comes back tomorrow with basically a full go, no sleeve on his leg and all that kind of stuff. So I expect him to play less. He may play some, but I think he'll play way less because I think they're going to start to monitor that, whatever that particular soft tissue injury is, which it may be a soft tissue injury. We really don't know, to my knowledge, because nobody ever tells us fucking anything out of the State College Sports Bar.
I saw him shake his left leg as he walked past me.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
and
means.
he wore a sleeve today, so that's all we got. That's pretty much it. But I think the rookie that I'm most looking forward to is really twofold. I want to see more Chig. Yeah, I want to see him involved more. And that requires Malik Willis to involve him in that.
Yep.
I want to see more Hassan Haskins. I think that we didn't. I don't think when he got into the game, I don't think we got to see enough good things from him. So I want to see him with the quote unquote ones of the preseason. I don't need to see Julius Chestnut, I don't think, anymore. And that's nothing to knock Julius Chestnut. Julius Chestnut's going to be a fine practice squad and priority practice squad addition for this team. I want to see if you're telling me what do I want to see? I want to see Hassan Haskins. I don't need Julius Chestnut necessarily getting reps with the ones. Let him show off like Mekhi Sargent did last year with the scrubs. I want to see Hassan Haskins and see him in a very productive and involved role.
How about Hassan Haskins running right behind both Dylan Radins and Nicholas Petit-Frere, alternating and finding out what that looks like, with maybe Chigakonkwu blocking with them, so that we can see all those pieces together working on the right side of the offensive line.
Yeah, I want to see him run left. I want to see him run right. I want to see him run up the middle. I want to see him be used in a lot of ways. Like, I don't need to see Jontrell Hilliard.
Yeah.
I don't need to see Trenton Cannon getting snaps. If you're going to treat it, if you have to as a team to save Hassan Haskins or whatever, and they split equal reps, that's fine. Do them in series. Do them like they did Barkley and Woodside last year. Let Hassan Haskins run a series with the ones and let Chestnut run a series with the ones. I just want to see more Hassan Haskins involvement in the offense.
Former Vanderbilt head football coach Bobby Johnson says receivers were wide open last weekend and Malik Willis didn't see them. Look at that. Former SEC coaches listening to the pod.
That's
I like
crazy.
That.
I love it.
Way to go, Coach Johnson. Yes, that's the issue with Malik Willis. We know that's the issue. That is what we're going to watch, of course, on Saturday evening. Right tackle battle, punter battle. Keep an eye on that. I want to see Chance Campbell, more Chance Campbell. I think Vrabel was complimentary of his athletic ability, which maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see on that one. I may have to put my hand up and be wrong about that, but I want to see more of Campbell because, it was – I'm not allowed to say specifically here, but in the 2-minute drill, for example, they were doing very interesting things with the middle linebacker position.
Interesting.
I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll text you.
Okay. And I think you want to see some Roger McCreary, right? I think in a game situation, let's see. If I were the Titans, I sit Christian Fulton and I start Caleb Farley and Roger McCreary.
I like it.
And let Elijah Molden play in this game too. And I still am holding out hope that Shakur Brown gets an interception this weekend.
All right. And lost in a lot of this is that Theo Jackson has not really practiced much.
And of course, Chris Jackson is injured as well, but they're optimistic. But
yeah, we'll see. The Chris Jackson knee injury looked bad in real time.
Yeah.
When it was on the television set. Okay.
Oh, man, I didn't even change your little.
Bucs-Titans preview. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's a Bucs-Titans preview.
Now we're leaving to a different topic though.
Are we done with the Bucs-Titans preview?
Yeah,
Everybody good?
So. I think that's good. I mean, it's preseason, so you want to see a lot of the same stuff you saw in game one, but now you want to see it with people that are actually on the team now. We don't need to see what Trenton Cannon is. We don't need to see what Jordan Wilkins is. We know that they're losers. Let's see these other guys in a more expanded role now that they can garner some more snaps.
That is fair. We'll talk a little college football here to wrap up the show. Before we do that, of course, the football show is brought to you by the Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. If you're going to make a big decision about your house, do it with the Kingston Group in mind. Just have a conversation with them. No matter how big or how small, they will help you find the right decision. They will help you. Unlike Malik Willis, they will help you make the right decision every single time. The Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Make sure you check them out. Again, locally owned, award-winning, people you can trust. That is the most important part in the home remodeling world, in which you don't really trust anybody. So go check that out. Okay. Miles Brennan retires from football after 14 head coaches and 37 injuries. He really only played like 3 games, really, and that was in 2020. But what it does is it clears the way, Zach, for Jaden Daniels, the Arizona State transfer, and Garrett Nussmeier, the very explosive and interesting younger quarterback for LSU, to battle it out for Brian Kelly. Jaden Daniels is probably going to start, and I don't think this is a huge surprise, but adios, Miles Brennan. Take it easy.
Well, I know that he had a lot of injuries and issues and stuff like that. So, I guess for someone to make that kind of decision, that big life-changing decision, and it's tough for him, but good for him to be able to walk away on his own terms. And I think that's a big thing, to be able to say that, hey, I am walking away. I love this game, but I'm going to have to take a break from it. And I think that takes a lot of cojones to do.
And honestly, like, Miles Brennan is kind of an example of what makes certain players in college football kind of special. This is a guy who's never really started a full season, who's not really been a good player for LSU, but the fans love him because he's stuck home and he's stuck through everything, through injuries and quarterback battles and multiple coaches and all this stuff. He stuck through it and stayed with LSU and stayed true to LSU. And so LSU fans love him, even though he really only played like 3 games in like 2020. And he was told by Brian Kelly he's not going to be the starter, so he retires. And like, fans kind of love him for his commitment and loyalty to LSU. And that's kind of a college football thing. Like, you can't get that dynamic in any other place, like not even any other sport, really. So Jaden Daniels is going to be the starter at LSU. The question is, does Garrett Nussmeier beat him out over the course of the season? That's going to be the interesting question with LSU. So All right, last one here on the show. Again, Kingston Group, Weisslickers, go check them out. F Words Pod, YouTube page, Broadway Sports Media, 440 Sports. You guys know all the drills. Go turn all the notifications on. Big Ten announces a huge contract finally with broadcast partners.
That
CBS.
dwarfs, by the way. It's a much better contract than the SEC one.
Well, but this is where it's interesting. So SEC on CBS has been and will always be the greatest television contract in the history of TV on the TV side. It was so small based on its ratings. And what happened is ESPN overpaid for all of it, paid about $300 million per year for basically 3 SEC games. The Big Ten is getting $1 billion a year from 3 different networks, each for basically 1 football game, which is Fox at 11 a.m., CBS at 2:30, and then NBC for your primetime game, 6:30-ish, 7 o'clock-ish, give or take. That is $1 billion a year for the Big Ten, and ESPN's only paying $300 million a year for 3 SEC games, basically every single Saturday. So it's a great deal for the mothership.
Yeah,
it is
bad
not
deal
as good
for the SEC.
Not as good a deal for the SEC, but
even though that they were only getting paid $55 million per team or whatever, and now they're getting paid $300 million. But technically, compared to the Big Ten, it's not that great of a deal.
It was an overpay when they signed it 2 years ago. And by the time it kicks in 2 years, because it's not going to start for another 2 years, so you get 2 more seasons of SEC on CBS theme music. But when it kicks in 2024, it will already be a great deal for ESPN. So I think you're spot on to look at that. Now, this spurned an interesting conversation on Twitter. I think you and Davey Shepard were having this conversation. Yes. And you guys both could not be more factually incorrect on this. The question is, who does college football broadcast the best?
So that's not what I was debating.
Okay.
I was debating that I don't like any of CBS's football productions from any of the ones that I watch. Now, obviously, I watch the SEC game of the week, and anytime Alabama's being broadcasted, all the Titans games, and I will occasionally watch whatever, the playoff game. Unless it's being broadcast on Nickelodeon, then I'll watch Nickelodeon.
So here's the thing. For Titans games, I completely agree that CBS broadcast isn't as good because that's like the 6th broadcast crew. That's the 6th set of cameras. Great interview, by the way, with Cal Baxter of News Channel 2, who's the cameraman for 20 years for News Channel 2 on Lamestream Sports, coming out on Friday morning. Check out that show. He's going to tell you all about the differences in broadcast quality and what makes a good broadcast and everything. I agree that Titans generally get screwed because they get, again, E or F level of everything, right? It's not the A or B or C team of anything. Here's the difference with college football. CBS has 1 broadcast crew for college football. That is like their top tier. And it is the only broadcast crew that is completely on 1 team. It's the only of the 4 big networks where they have a complete in-house and everything is 1080p, and it goes broadcast with 1080. It goes back to the truck 1080. It goes to the studio 1080. It comes back to your house 1080. ESPN downsamples to 720. So it goes down to 720 into their studio. Then it comes back out and they upsample it and they upconvert it to 1080. So that's what their decreasing quality for ESPN is. Fox shoots in 4K more than everybody else, but only on Joe Buck broadcasts and in NFL. And the number 1 producer by a mile in all of this is Craig Silver, who's been running the CBS on SBC broadcast for the better part of, like a decade or so. He is the number 1 top dog in all of this. CBS's college football broadcast is by far the gold standard of college football broadcast. Television quality, camera shots, broadcast crew is questionable. But it's
not even close to I think the Broadway,
I agree.
The broadcast crew, and that makes up for a lot of that, brings down a lot of what you're talking about. My thing is that NFL CBS quality compared to Fox, and this is visual quality, and ESPN games when they're primetime games, same with NBC primetime games, is so much worse. I only watch 1 SEC game, a week typically. I may catch one here or there. That's, depending on where I'm at or something. So to me, overrating the college football broadcast is not the same as what I'm trying to say, which is basically, I think CBS as a whole, their football product is the worst out of Fox, ESPN. I guess you include NBC somewhere.
NBC, and this is what's hard about this debate, because NBC only has 2.
Yeah.
They do Notre Dame and then they do Sunday Night Football. And so again, when you don't have to spread yourself so thin the way ESPN has to spread itself from a camera standpoint, trucks, broadcast crew, everything, like to me, ESPN's visual display on the screen is atrocious, except for their big NFL broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with NBC. This is where CBS puts all of their eggs into one basket on Saturdays, and they have genuinely changed the way we watch college football with the way they broadcast that SEC game at 2:30. Fox is like, again, when Fox is good, they are great on Sundays generally, but even on Saturdays, like sometimes they don't even look white balanced. They look completely grayed out. Some of that's because the Midwest is just gray. I don't know. But like if I'm watching Maryland and Illinois, like it just looks gray to me.
It's
like,
obsession with Maryland football. Like, why is that the first team out of it? I know, but it's funny because Mike does the same thing. Like Maryland is on the tip of the tongue anytime he talks about the Big Ten because Maryland beat Texas 2 times in a row. Like, my gosh, I mean, is that the first team? It's Ohio State and Maryland for you.
Well, I say Maryland and Rutgers because like they're ACC and Big East teams in the Big Ten, and so that's kind of why my brain goes there, I guess. But again, I like pick Iowa versus Purdue, whatever. Those broadcasts to me feel very gray. They're not even like white balanced. And I talked to a couple of camera crew guys just for this conversation. When Fox is great, they're great because they shoot more 4K than anybody else. But they have real big quality control issues, like in general, on their trucks and everything. And then again, ESPN does the upsampling and the downsampling. I think CBS and NBC do the best job, but it's because they don't spread themselves so thin. That's why CBS NFL broadcasts look so bad, is because
they're the worst.
They're spread so thin. That's the problem.
I wish that, and it's not, I'm not necessarily like, I know you keep bringing up like the one SEC game and how great that one game is. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to really, other than the broadcast guys, I don't really dispute that. But as a more of an NFL guy that watches and consumes a lot of the NFL product, if there's a doubleheader on CBS and not one on Fox, I'm probably not watching that CBS football game because I think that they're just, I don't care. It's Tony Romo. First off, I think Tony Romo's has gone completely overrated and it's too much. And I am not here for some Tony Romo, Jim Nantz bullshit. I think that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are 10 times better than those guys are on a consistent week-to-week basis.
How about this? I do not like Joe Buck at all, and I will acknowledge that Joe Buck is better.
I don't get the Joe Buck hate. I like Joe Buck. He's a little wry and everything and all that kind of stuff.
He's such an arrogant asshole, but like he is a great broadcaster. He is a great broadcaster. There's no question.
Yeah. So to me, it's like I want to watch Fox games all day, every day, because it also comes down to, as you can see on our screen, the ticker. CBS's ticker at the bottom for a fantasy football guy is always behind and oftentimes never shows who scores a touchdown. Like don't
you have the internet for that though?
Now I'm trying to watch a game. I gotta have. If I look down my phone, I'm not being able to watch the game, right? So to me, that's a huge issue, and that goes down to quality production. I think while CBS probably does, or I agree, except for the bowl games that are like those primetime games, you know, and everything they're typically on, I believe ABC or NBC, right?
So ESPN and out of the 36 bowl games, ESPN has 35 of them. There's one bowl game that is on. Well, that's not true. I guess Fox has one of the big ones at the end of the year.
That's what I was talking about.
But there's one that's like the Sun Bowl is on CBS or some shit like that. Like
CBS traditionally, the SEC broadcast, I have no quarrels with outside as far as quality outside of the broadcast group.
That's fair.
And I think, but when you go down to a product as a whole, the college football product combined with the NFL product as a whole, I think they're severely lacking.
So I think what's interesting is that NBC has the highest rated, most watched product. Some of that's the time slot on Sunday night, 11 years in a row. CBS is the most watched network and has the highest rated 14 years in a row for college football. So those two have been doing it better than everybody else, but only when they are at their best.
Yeah.
And I think ESPN, here's the thing. ESPN's college broadcasts, like SEC Network and stuff, like I don't think they're particularly great. I work for ESPN, and I don't think they're particularly great. But I think their ABC broadcasts, which is their top crew, Herb Street and Fowler and all that stuff, which used to be, that broadcast is very good. So it's almost always about how thin are you spreading yourself. And CBS doesn't spread itself thin on Saturdays, but spreads itself very thin on Sundays, and ESPN is the opposite, right? Like ESPN is really grainy and spread out on Saturdays, and then on on Monday night they get the one game that they put all their eggs into that one basket, right?
Yeah.
So it's more about like how many broadcasts can one network actually do really well? And
I think Fox does their NFL broadcasts consistently better than everybody else. And if I had to choose someone told me that, hey, the Titans can only play on one network, and I probably would include NFL Network. I would say NFL Network needs to do it. But if they can only play on one broadcast network every game, I would kill for them to. I would kill for the Fox Sports to trade for the Tennessee Titans rights and broadcast rights, because I am so sick of Dero Speedies and whoever else, Adam Archuleta or whatever else fucking loser they give us.
They don't even know how to pronounce Kevin Byard's name right.
Yeah, I'm so sick of that.
That's bad.
I'm so sick of the CBS. I've been sick of CBS, NFL CBS for decades.
So here's what you have to get used to, though, as a college football fan, and we'll end the show on this note. You're going to get Fox, probably a Ohio State versus, Penn State type of game in that first window at 11 a.m., something in the eastern portion of the Big Ten. So Michigan or Penn State or Michigan State or Ohio State. Then you're going to probably get a big Wisconsin, Nebraska or Iowa, Nebraska or Iowa, Michigan game in the heartland in that 2:30 slot on CBS. And then you're probably going to get USC and UCLA hosting games on the West Coast in that primetime slot on NBC. And that is what the Big Ten has done. And $1 billion a year, folks. This could grow to $10 billion a year if they expand. So that's baked into the contract as well. This is funny money, boys. Like this is different
This is
level.
ridiculous.
It's different level, man. So enjoy the game on Saturday. We'll be back on Monday. Zach, where can the people find you, buddy?
At FWordsPod. You can find me on BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Basically, anywhere that's a podcast, you can come in and hear my takes. We had Mike on this past weekend doing some damage control for the Mike Herndon brand.
He would not apologize. He did
not apologize. It's kind of like I'm sorry that you got offended.
You know what? I think Mike he's a pretty good journalist as a runner.
Yeah, as a runner. And so, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Go to the YouTube pages for 440 Sports, Broadway Sports Media. Make sure to turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a show. We're going to have some big things coming down the pipeline. It's going to be fun for when football season starts. You're actually going to have a show that you can come to twice a week. That is not going to be like, give me one word that describes what Kyle Phillips did to Logan Ryan. Like, who gives a shit about your one word? Like, we don't care about that.
I don't get that reference, but I love that you made it. We love you guys for listening and hanging out with us. We appreciate all you guys. Thanks to the Kingston Group and for Weiss Liquors for making this happen. Broadway Sports Media, 440 Sports, all you guys. Enjoy the weekend. Have a great one. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. My name's Braden. He's Zach. Thanks for watching. This has been a football show.